Hey guys, this is Dhruv Dalvi. So what you just saw now is an intro I have designed for my brother's YouTube channel, Newton Lego. He makes his awesome transformers and creations with Lego in stop motion animation. I wanted to highlight the concept of the logo I had designed for the channel. The triangle in the letter N of the letter mark is symbolic of the prism, which refers to the famous experiment conducted by Newton, which demonstrated splitting of white light into 7 colors of the rainbow. As you can see, I have represented the same even in the intro. My brother here could be compared to a prism, as he transforms Lego pieces into creations. And at the end of the intro, you can see the prism transforming into the logo itself. So here, I have the Lego base on which all the bricks in the video are held. I have taped down the base to the table so that it doesn't move during the stop motion sequence. The camera I'll be using is my iPhone 5s, which is fitted in a DIY overhead rig. The primary lighting source or the key light is to the left. This is the main source of light. In the video, all the bricks and Lego pieces enter from the left. So it makes sense to do the same even with the main lighting placed at the left. The secondary light is on the right. The key light is a 20-watt LED bulb in a DIY diffusion box. The tripod of the light rests on wooden stands which increase its height. The secondary light is a standard 5-watt Philips desk light. Alright, so now let's start filming the stop motion video. The editing software I have used to create this intro is DaVinci Resolve 16.2. So this is what the intro looks like in the edit page. So you can see here all the image files. I got them into the timeline. Next, I grouped them into these compound clips. So if you notice at the start of the video, all the Lego blocks are continuously moving. Now instead of having multiple images, what I did was take 4 images in such a manner that I could loop them. Then I grouped these 4 images into these compound clips, as you can see here. And then I duplicated this 3 times. This gave me freedom to decide how long I wanted the video to be. Next, you can see this adjustment clip here in orange. So if I make any changes here, it will apply to all the clips below it. Now, there is a zoom out effect at the start of the video. I cannot be doing this on individual images, but if I do this to the adjustment clip, it will apply to all the images below it. So you can see here at the start, I have keyframed the zoom 1.6 at the beginning of the video, and as I move forward, the zoom decreases. Then I added this prism image on top of all other clips, and I keyframed the zoom out similar to the one I showed before. One thing to note here is when I open the spline, the zoom out, as you can see, is a curved line rather than it being straight. So you can see like zoom out eases out, and if I play the clip, so notice how the prism eases out during the zoom. If this were a straight line, it will just come to an abrupt end. I did the same thing even for the zoom out I had shown before it. Now coming over to the transition of the prism to the logo. So there were a few things which made this a seamless transition. The first thing was that the prism and the logo shared common ground when it came to the shape. So what I did was zoom out the prism quickly and faded in the logo. Also, if you notice that there is some motion blur during the zoom out of the prism, that helps the transition look much more seamless. Also at the end, you can see that there is an abrupt background change. That also adds the value in the transition. So this adjustment clip here is where I've done all the color correction. So let's head into the color tab. So this is what the video looks like in the color tab. So what I've got here at the right are called as nodes. Now if you don't know what nodes are, you can compare them to layers in such a manner that the first node is the base layer and the node after it is a layer on top of it. This is just a basic understanding you can use for now. So what I did in the first node was to define the neutrals. So if I turn off all the color adjustments I have made, you can see the original clip. So what I did in the first node was I decreased the color boost, as you can see it's negative, and increased the saturation. So doing this removed any colors which were in a lower saturation value. So observe these whites here. If I turn this node on and off, you can see there is a yellowish tinge in the white which was removed when we made these changes. In the second node, I made changes to the exposure. So I brightened the image, increased the contrast. In the third node, the white balance was set. In this case, there was not much of a change. In the next node, the highlights were decreased. Since the Lego bricks on the right are the colored rainbow ones, the violet one is at the bottom. But unfortunately, the color violet turned out to be this bluish one. So what I did here in this node, so if I turn that on, you can see that it becomes violet. So what I had done was I went into the curves, hue versus hue curve, and then I selected this blue color and increased the rotation in such a manner that it now appears to be violet. In the last node, which is basically dealing with the reds, what I did was to decrease the saturation. So at the end, you can see that the whole background is red. Now if I were to make this red very contrasting, it would be harder to see the logo on top of it, which is a foreground. Hence, I have decreased the contrast just for the red color. So now coming to the sound design for the intro. So once I had selected my music and got it into the timeline, what I looked for was a drop in the music. So if you hear now, when the transition took place, I wanted the music to have a drop to make the transition look much more seamless. And once I had found that drop and I placed it below the transition, I was faced with a problem because this drop was in the middle of the song. When the video of the intro had ended, the music was still going on. So instead of just fading it out at the end, what I did was cut out this clip of music, as you can see here, which is actually the end of the song itself. And then I matched it with the beat of the drop so as to make the whole audio seem seamless. I've done the same thing at the start of the song also. You can see in the second audio track I have some whooshes. So at the start, the prism zooms out. And since it's zooming out so rapidly, I could add that whoosh sound effect. And also, the start of the sound, even though I tried to match it best with the beat of the drop, there was still some empty space when it came to the audio at the start of the video. That is, for about half a second, I did not have any song playing. So the whoosh that I explained before also covered up the start of the song. And the same whoosh has been used even in the transition. Alright, so that's it for the editing of this video. So before you go, here's the intro one last time.